We always do this.
Hey, welcome back to the Best Before podcast. I am Ann Duskus of Studio Duskus. Here with me is my co-host.
It's me, Vic from Say La Vic. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Oh my God, Happy New Year.
Oh my gosh, we still
I
have
can't
the
believe
Christmas
it's
stuff behind
2023. Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Just pretend you don't see it. Okay.
On vacation, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do we want to talk about today? What's this topic?
Okay, this topic came up last year.
Yeah.
But I'm stumped by it. That's why it's like, okay, let's put it off. But then also, like, it seems like it's a good time to talk about it.
It's like such an important thing.
Like, let's set kind of like the ground rule for this year.
Absolutely. Anne, what
Ask me the question that I'm stumped about.
What makes you happy?
Oh my God, it's such a tough question to answer. Vicky, can you start? Dude, that is so hard. I mean, listen, if I'm just being very generic and very easy right now, let me just put it out there. Like, my dog makes me so happy. Like, puppies makes me happy. Dogs makes me happy. And sorry, yes, my husband makes me happy too. But, like, I'm sorry. Like, I love my dog. She's the best.
I know. I always say that eventually I need to have a dog in my life because I have a lot of love to give. And, like, you know, they're just a receptacle of love. And they, like, give back. And they just, you know.
You do.
And so I'm always, like, begging Anne to bring Mabel in because we need a studio dog. Like, that needs to be a more frequent thing.
I know.
She comes in every now and then. She's, like, the best dog. Literally, like, she will come in here and she makes no noise. You can literally just work through all of it. Sometimes I always forget that she's here.
I know.
Because she's just sitting in her dog bed and chilling.
She's such
and, like,
a good
sometimes
puppy.
she'll come over and, like, get some love,
Yeah.
you know, and then go back and do her thing. She's so sweet. So, yeah.
Yeah. Right off the bat, that makes me happy.
Okay. What makes me happy? Okay. And it's so funny because we talk about this and we're like, cool, like, let's try to, like, make this a little bit different from everything else that we talk about on this podcast. But I think what makes me happy is being able to spend a lot of time with, like, family. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that's, like, to my core, like a value, and, like, something that I value a lot is family time and being able to give back and, like, all of those things. And so that is also, like, the source of my stress, you know, where it's like I have, you know, all these expectations and, like, I want to make my family proud and I want to be able to, like, you know, work and then afford to, like, spoil them, you know, whenever I go home, like, take them out for dinner and stuff like that. So that's one thing, is spending time with people that I love, because I think if there's anything that my grandparents taught me is that you don't ever want to live with regrets in life, and you want to give the people you love the most time that you can.
Man, that one hits really close to home, Vicky, because the reality is, like, I haven't talked to my parents in a while because, you know, I mean, just, like, typical family stuff, you know, like, where sometimes you have disagreements, mm-hmm. and sometimes you just can't wrap your head around how you're going to settle on something, and it's easier to just kind of, like, push it away, like, out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. And, like, for me, it's easy to make it out of sight, out of mind because my parents are out of the country. They don't live in the States.
Yeah.
And so, one, there's, like, a major, like, time difference,
mm-hmm.
because they're in Asia. And then two, it's like, okay, like, for us to physically be together, like, it takes a lot of time and effort. And so, but then I always, like, you know, when I go through a period of time where I don't talk to them and I start to feel, like, guilty, mm-hmm. you know, about, like, well, you're not being a very good daughter right now.
It's, like, just looming over you.
Yeah.
You're too busy. You can't make time.
Right, but then it's, like, all excuses, because I always say, like, we always can make time for the things we want to make time for.
Totally.
And so it was a conscious effort to, like, not make time for those things because, like, I can mentally deal. Mm-hmm. But again, no excuse. So, like, I do really appreciate you saying that because, you know, there's just so much, like, grief in the news, mm-hmm. you know. I mean, like, not directly related to me, but, like, because I'm, again, super grateful that's not directly related to me. But if they were, like, I would live with so much regret.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think like, you know, sort of the flip side of that is I value my family so much and people that I love, that I realize too what I'm doing now fills my own cup. And I realize the importance of that. First off, I need to be happy in order for me to help you and like share my happiness with you. Because if my cup is empty, then I can't, there is nothing to share,
Yep.
you know? And so I think that's like partially what we're doing here is like, we're like working so hard because we're trying to fill our cups. We're trying to establish, you know, what is important to us. And I think this topic also came up like a while ago when I was talking with friends. You know, we were on a road trip, and one of the questions that came up was like, if nothing else was a factor, what would your dream job be?
Mm-hmm. Oh, let's talk about this. We never really talked about this.
Yeah. What would your dream job be?
No, you go first.
No, I'm asking because like I have something in mind, but like I want to hear.
I need a minute to think about that because along the same line, I think I love that question, and I'm totally dragging this on because I don't have an answer.
Take as much time as you need.
Yeah, but it's along the same line as like, what would you do if you know you couldn't fail? Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. Yes.
And
well, let me ask you a question maybe before that. What did you want to be growing up? Like when you what was the question? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Like as a kid, what was your answer?
Okay. I know exactly what that answer is, and I'm nowhere close to it, and I think I would still love to be that.
Okay.
And I don't know where this came from. I was a little kid, and then when I was very little, I knew this was what I wanted. I wanted to be a philanthropist. And I know that sounds really cheesy to say out loud because like, you're like, yeah, and sure. How do you know? You know, you didn't even know what a philanthropist is.
Right.
Like, how
as like
can
a
you
kid,
wanna
like
be
how
that?
old? Like
I
young?
think I was
young
like,
kid?
I was pretty young. I was like under 10.
Okay.
I was in elementary school.
Okay.
And I think like, I remember like watching like a show, like a charity show on TV. And this was actually before we immigrated. So I was born and raised in Taiwan until I was about 10. Mm-hmm. And so this was like when I was still in Taiwan, I didn't know how to speak a word of English. And I was just watching this like charity TV show. And I remember them giving an award to this like gentleman who like gave all of his money away, you know, to this like amazing organization that I can't even remember what it was now. But like it showed me, like it showed the audience like the organization, the people that benefited from his donations. Mm-hmm. And I remember like being really touched by it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to have money to give away.
That's so sweet of you. Like I'm thinking like
it's weird like that. I would even think that, to be honest with you.
Baby Ann thinking about that. Yeah. Aww.
Yeah. And so like so for the longest time that was my answer. Like people are always like, "Oh my gosh, did you always wanted to be a fashion designer growing up?" I'm like, "Nope." I haven't even thought about it. That was frowned upon in an Asian household. Like you cannot be a designer of any kind.
Yep.
Let alone like fashion designer. But yeah, that wasn't even a thing.
That's crazy. And you're like thinking, I want to be a little philanthropist.
It's wild.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. You're going to be a millionaire, billionaire.
I would love to. I would love to.
You can, you know, help all the people. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you don't necessarily, not everything is about money. And you don't necessarily have to have all of the money in the world in order to be able to help people. Right? So I take that back. You don't need millions of dollars and you can still be, you know, a philanthropist. But interesting.
Okay, I feel like I'm going to lose my train of thought, so I'm going to say it right now before I even ask you, like, what your answer is. But I feel like this is, like, very relevant to our topic today because, again, what makes us happy? And I really want to be real with our listeners, with our team members, people who are a part of our community, and we've talked about this in previous episodes before where, like, what you see on the internet and what you see us doing, like, it's not all roses.
No.
It is not all roses. It's actually, like, not all roses. Yeah. more than when it's all roses.
And it's like a bush of thorns, more like.
Oh my gosh,
like,
perfect description.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're always being like poked by it. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, stop doing that. Like, go back to work. Like, what are you doing?
Gosh.
And then we recently had a conversation about like, so for those of you who are new to our podcast, like Vicky and I are based in San Francisco.
Yep.
In the heart of Silicon Valley. Granted, like San Francisco is like the saddest like metropolitan city in the world right now. Like it's a ghost town.
It's like
it made like
such a
BBC News,
strange-
it made CNN News. Like they were
Really?
literally talking about how sad San Francisco is because downtown San Francisco is a huge tech hub.
Yeah.
And pandemic took everybody away. And so they're like, what do we do with the $17 salad place?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have
Yeah.
like $20 salad places.
And like rent is so expensive in the city, but like where is the appeal? You know, it's almost like San Francisco's lost its appeal. But really, San Francisco is like a, hidden gems kind of place. I always thought that it was.
Yeah.
And like with the tech gone, it's almost like San Francisco's a little naked. Like there's nothing. There's no substance to it, and you don't understand why you're paying so much rent to stay in a city that doesn't really have the cleanest streets, has really expensive food, expensive rent,
Yeah, and all the great businesses that survive and thrived from all the downtown employees are no longer around.
They shut down. Yeah.
Why are we living in a place that's empty?
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, so going back to like sort of a recent conversation that we had is, I remember you were telling me, I'm totally exposing you right now, but you're like, Ann, like, I had a moment of temptation. I'm like, what do you mean?
Oh, yeah. This is why. Yeah.
And then okay, what was that moment of temptation?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Since you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And this is totally where it all started because I went out for a dinner with friends recently, and this is very common, I think, from my experience moving from Toronto to San Francisco, and the culture shock a little bit. But we went to a friend's place, and they were moving out of their beautiful apartment, and this is like a triplex, like they had 3 balconies, gorgeous place. And if you know the rent situation in San Francisco, you know that you can make so much money and you can only afford to live in a studio or a 1-bedroom.
You can make so much money and okay, let me just put it like, and I'm totally might be speaking out of my ass last time I checked, but you can literally be making a 6-figure income and still be living paycheck to paycheck in the city.
Yes, and be considered like on the brink of low income.
Yeah, which is insane.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
It's like so hard for me to digest, and I'm still like I experienced this when I first moved here 4 years ago, and now I'm experiencing it again. So we go into their place and it's gorgeous, and we're having dinner, and one of our friends is like a chef, and they're walking us through this rental property that they're moving out of, and that's why we're having we were having a party on the last day because cleaners were coming the next day, and then they were talking about the new place that they were moving to, another part of San Francisco that's kind of like a really cute neighborhood, and they're moving into a place even bigger than their rental property.
And let me just say, just like with every big metropolitan city, there are different pockets in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And some neighborhoods are just more expensive than others.
More desirable, like even like the weather conditions, like we have microclimates in the city. They're just like, it's always beautiful in those areas. And obviously those places are going to be more expensive.
So they're moving from one expensive neighborhood to another expensive neighborhood.
And I'm just like thinking, they've only moved to San Francisco for a year. And granted, they might be somewhere in between our age group, like our age range. And I'm just thinking, like, how
they both work in tech.
They both work in tech. But like, how can you just afford to buy a place, after 1 year? And I'm here, like struggling and not struggling. I'm here working, and it's just so hard to digest, and because the amount of money that it would take to buy a property, afford a property in the city, means you have a lot saved up. You're making a lot of money, and both of you are working, so you can afford it. Mm-hmm. And so my moment of weakness at that point is, should I not be wasting my time doing this? And should I be working in tech? Because, and I'm saying this like not boasting or anything, my background is very suitable to get into tech. And even if I had an entry-level position in tech, I could easily, in a couple of years, be making six figures.
No, I feel like you would start in six figures in this city.
Right.
Even at
like,
entry level.
At entry level.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of what San Francisco and Silicon Valley is. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I'm now pulling in six figures easily, and my partner is already pulling in six figures easily, imagine, like, I don't have to be living in like a dinky little apartment with no room, you know? I could have a full house. I could afford to buy the house outright. I could afford all the luxuries that I want in life. And that was my moment of weakness, where it's like, should I just have a regular schmegular job? You know? Is all of this worth it? You know? And I think I came back to you in the studio and I was like, you know, I went through this and I feel like still at the end of the day, my answer is I would rather have tried than to have regret not trying.
And that is in regards to you pursuing doing your own thing versus working for somebody else.
Correct.
So are you saying this, what you're doing right now, makes you happy? Could you say that?
Yes. So the answer to my question for when my friends asked me, like, what would you be if you could be anything in the world? And it was like the biggest flex, because I literally said I would be doing exactly what I'm doing now. I would be making, like, that's what I want to do. I just want to make things with my hands, you know? And I would just be like making whatever I dreamed up, even if it was like childish, even if it was like useless, even if nobody wants to buy it. I just want to be making things, you know, anything that I personally in my heart want to make. And so I'm living my dream. And like, I'm very happy. Like, I don't think I've ever been happier working in a job. I don't go home and say, oh my God, I'm so miserable. I go home saying, like, how can I do better? How can I make this a permanent thing? How do I make this sustainable so I can continue doing this? Because I would love to spend the rest of my life just dreaming up and turning into reality ideas, you know? And I think that's exactly what this is. This is an idea that I'm like, I think it's worth pursuing and then going all out in it. And that's what makes me happy.
Yeah. Can I take it back to my favorite quote based on what you're saying?
Yes.
One of my favorite quote, which I've also posted on my Instagram account at some point, is a creative adult is a child who survived. And I feel like in many ways, that's who we are attempting to not lose a sense of. That like sense of play, sense of like immaturity, a sense of like playfulness and that you see in a child. And yeah, like I would love to get paid or like not get paid, not have to worry about money and just do arts and craft for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know, like that sounds amazing, you know? And I love what you said about like you are living your dream.
Yeah.
Because I think earlier this last year, we've talked about how I'm living my dream. I think we've talked about this like briefly in a previous episode where I said no to my dream job.
Yep.
In 2022, and which was like a big kind of like, maybe in a sense it's like again it's a matter of perspective, right? It's like it's the same amount of like equal amount of like flex, but also an equal amount of like, what the heck are you doing? Like, Ann, how dare you say
like,
no?
It's not a logical. It almost feels like
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Right.
Why would you?
Right. And essentially, it's a job that will allow me to do exactly what I'm doing right now, but somebody is paying me a six-figure income to do it.
Yeah.
So there is stability, there is benefit, there's perks, there is bragging rights that comes with this job.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as maybe like 2.5 years ago, I would have took it like in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And been like very happy about it and like gone all like the whole
Right.
way.
Yes.
Right.
And I think, and you've seen my internal struggle with it. I talked to you about it at the time when I was like having to make a decision. And I think, and I was even talking to a really good friend of mine about it, and she's like, and it's nice to kind of allow other people to tell me what I already know, but I am refusing to accept maybe, or in denial of.
Just bringing that forward.
Yeah.
Because it's like lost in the noise of everything else that you're considering.
Right. Because they're not me. You're not me. So you can't fully understand everything I'm thinking about or considering.
Yeah.
Because again, like I have a family. Yes, like we have retirement goals. We have all these things that comes into play when it comes to these kind of like decision making. But it was just so nice to have people closest to me tell me that, like, Ann, like you're living your dream, and I was like, shit, you're right. And it's like part of me knows that, but like to have more than one person tell me that was it was like a boost of like confidence that like logically it might not make sense to you, but you need to just stay the course sort of thing. And I think in 2022 I went through a lot of like internal struggles about, like, again, I have moments of weakness like you too. It's like I have a skill set where I can find a job,
Right.
a steady job with a steady income, where I don't have to worry about the day-to-day about running a business.
Can you imagine you going to work 9 to 5, maybe during certain seasons you work a little overtime, and then you have vacation pay, you get time off, you can just get off work and go and have dinner and not worry about your business, your livelihood constantly.
Yeah. It's nice, but then also, as you and I have learned, like living in the city, is that like, I mean, not even in the city, but just in the world, like nothing is guaranteed. You can get laid off tomorrow, and they don't have to give you a reason at all. Like you're done.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, like having your own business almost provide a little bit more stability in this day and age, which is like so wild to say and even think about.
Yeah. I was talking to someone about it. We're in a recession, but it's a very different kind of recession. It's not like the one that happened years ago. It looks very different. It's like everybody has everything they need. You're not starving, you're not at risk of like necessarily, like dying of starvation, but it's another kind of like the recession is a different kind of like lack of, and the population's suffering through all of this.
I feel like in a weird way, like even in a recession in our day and age today, and I'm totally probably am wrong about this, but this is just my perspective, I still feel like there is a sense of need for, especially on social media, like to keep up with the Joneses mentality. It's like I'm broke, but I'm still gonna look like I'm not broke, and I'm fine, and all these things,
Yeah.
And so I get what you're saying. It's like just a different type of recession,
that we're in.
Yeah.
And it's so absolutely crazy. And I feel like, at the end of the day, what it reminded me, like, to really stand my ground for, even more so, is the value of what we do. It's like you're saying, you still need social, like social media is still an important aspect, no matter if we're in a recession or not, what the world looks like, and the job that we have and the direction we're going, we are the sacrifice that we have to give up is basically the stability, the job, and to remind us that every project that we take on, we can't be pushovers about it, because that's what we're giving up. Like, that's literally what I'm telling my partner at the end of the day is, hey, I'm not going to bring home 6 figures or even, like, be able to pull in that much money at the end of the day to do this job. And if it's just play, if it's all play and, like, not actual work, how do I go home and tell my life partner that? You know, like, this is what you're giving up. You're working so hard. You're not like, and that's the thing for me is like, I realized that the pursuit of happiness is not something that the majority of the population does. For like, when they think of a job, they don't have the luxury of thinking what's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
It's more what's going to put food on my plate, what's going to put a roof over my head.
Yeah.
And so we are in a very privileged position where we can say our job is what we love to do, and this is what makes us happy.
Yeah, and I mean, you make a really good point. It's like we are hugely privileged, and I know, like, maybe even someone who's watching this or listening to this is probably cringing about, like, at what we're saying. It's like, oh my God, these two girls have no idea what suffering is, you know?
Yeah.
And they're right, you know? Like, we have very little idea about what real suffering is. And I think for us, we are doing our best, you know? And we can only deal with, like, what's in front of us. And because, like, this is our life right now. And I think for me, like, I don't often think about whether or not what I'm doing right now makes me happy, because I think, like, to me, happy is the word happy, and the definition of happy is such, like, an abstract, like, concept. Because I think, like, you know, like, I think there's a general definition of what people think about, like, when and what's associated with happy, the word happy. Like, it's very joyful, you know, it's all the positive things that you associate with that. But I think I think from, like, on a day-to-day basis, like, I don't use that as, like, a compass as to how I operate. I think for me right now is like the fact that I'm super, I mean, I wouldn't say super, I mean, that's, like, kind of extreme, but, like, I'm really excited, like, to come to work in the morning.
Yeah.
I wasn't excited to go to work to my corporate job. Like, I'll say that outright, you know, but the fact that yes, there's no stability. I am hustling, and I am by myself, you know, and I have to do everything. But I'm really excited about the idea when I wake up in the morning, or when I'm going to sleep at night and thinking about what I have to do in the morning when I get to work. Like, I'm excited about waking up and going to work and accomplishing those things. I'm excited about the challenge. And I think those things makes me happy, even though they're not easy. But I guess, like, I just don't think about it in the sense that, like, does going to work make me happy, you know?
So can I ask you a question, Ann, then? Are you happy now?
I would say generally I'm pretty happy.
Okay.
I do have those days where I'm still happy, but I have days where I allow my overthinking to take over.
Yeah.
and
happy is, like, not like you're always, bubbly, excited. Like, it's not I feel like it's not a constant. You know, you can be happy, but you can have those roller coaster days where, highs and lows,
right,
and something will affect you and you're not having a good day, but in general, you're happy. And so, like, my follow-up question is, like, was there a period of time in your life previously where you were happier than you are now?
Oh, good question, girl. No. I think I am the happiest that I've ever been.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's huge. It's not like it's not something you can just describe. It's not something that words can be put into words, right? The definition or the feeling of being happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, like, very, in order for me to even say that I'm generally pretty happy, like, think about all the things in your life that is right in order to even feel that way. Because we've talked about before that it's so easy to allow one negative or not so great thing to drag us down. And there isn't really anything in my life that's that significantly negative that is dragging me down from how I feel optimistic about the future. And
if internet trolls are the worst of your worries, we got it good.
keep them coming.
We got it good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We can keep doing this, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, see, like, I feel like that puts everything into perspective. That, like, yes, social media is our tool. Social media can also be the thing that trips us up, you know, every now and then. But also what we're doing, if, like, we are clear in our goals and, like, where we want to go, and this is the direction that makes us happiest, then why isn't that a good reason?
Yeah.
You know, like, we're doing what we want to do. Obviously, we can still do this for the next little while. We're going to do everything in our power, everything we freaking can. We're going to give it our all to make this a sustainable business and, you know, make it so that what we do is capable of earning us money. You know, so, like, why is that silly? You know, why did we, like, for you, turning down your dream job, why did that feel like such a bad decision even? When it's not. Like, it was totally the right decision. All the lights are lighting up for you to go down this path, like, basically screaming at you to do this. Yet we get to the point where, what is it? Like, society tells us, our worries are, like, you know, this, like, pressure tells us that we are not making the right decision, when it is so clear, it's clear as day, that this is what makes us happy. And so there's nothing else in the world that deserves more of our time than this, right? That's crazy.
Oh my gosh, girl. It's scary, though. It's
How
scary.
did happy get so deep?
I mean, I feel like we still have so much more to say, but we're out of time.
Hey,
so-
oh my gosh, we are.
Yeah. But yes, thank you so much for, like, listening and helping us dig into this, like, very complex question.
Yeah. And I would love to hear about what makes you happy.
Oh,
and
yeah, drop it in
you
the comments.
Yeah, if you're listening, or, you know, send us a DM if you don't, you know, watch our YouTube videos, and just let us know, like, what makes you happy, because that's something we're still going to think more about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So make sure you like and subscribe and rate and share this with your friends. We love hanging out with you guys here. So thank you so much for listening.
Yay. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Oh, that got deep, girl.